Welcome to the San Diego Business Journal's Community of Business podcast, covering all of the vibrant business activity in the greater San Diego metropolitan area. And now, here are your hosts, Kevin Leap, publisher, and Jeff Clementson, editor-in-chief.
Hi, I'm Kevin Leap, publisher of the San Diego Business Journal, and welcome from our Community of Business podcast. We're with Jeff Clementson, our editor-in-chief.
Thank you, Kevin. And today, we are joined by Jason Anderson, CEO of Cleantech San Diego. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks for having me.
So for our listeners that are not familiar with the organization, why don't you explain what Cleantech San Diego is, its mission, some of the programs that you do?
Yeah, so Cleantech San Diego, we are a membership-based trade association. We've been around for 19 years. Obviously, we'll celebrate our 20th anniversary next year. We are an organization that is focused on supporting the renewable energy sector here in San Diego. And when I say renewable energy and kind of clean tech, what I mean is solar and wind and battery storage and microgrids and electric vehicles, things that are connected to the grid. So the organization was launched as an economic development and policy organization, really focused on building out the clean tech and renewable energy sector here in San Diego. So about 19 years ago when the organization was launched, AB 32 was passed by the state of California, really setting California on its renewable energy goals. And the mayor at the time, a number of different organizations, including UCSD, Scripps Institution of Oceanography, SDG&E, and others, got together and created this organization to hopefully create another economic pillar in San Diego, really built on the life science industry, the military, tourism, et cetera. And so that's really where the organization started. Over the years, we've run a number of different programs to support the regional energy sector. We work with startups. We run the Southern California Energy Innovation Network, which is an accelerator program where we support early stage energy companies and help them get their technology to market. We do advocacy and policy related issues. And then like any trade association, do events and those types of things to bring our community together and then to also help the region really understand the value of the clean tech sector here in San Diego. The value is today the industry employs about 12,000 people in our region, has about a $7 billion impact on our regional economy. And worth noting, the solar industry employs an additional 9,000 people in the region and has about a $3 billion on our impact on our regional economy.
And Jason, if I recall, you've been there since the beginning.
I haven't. I'm not that
very
old.
Close.
But I have been there for quite a while, yeah.
And you had mentioned about the work you do in policy. Now, I think a lot of people are aware of the rollbacks at the federal level in supporting the clean energy transition. How's that affected like San Diego's clean tech sector?
Yeah, so it has impacted the regional sector here for sure. There has been a significant amount of Department of Energy grants that were awarded to companies here in the region. Many of those grants have been pulled back. I think we just learned this morning that those were politically motivated, just based on where we are. But I will say, I think, fortunately, we are where we are. And I think California continues to be very aggressive around its energy and climate goals. And so some of the impacts at the federal level are definitely trickling down into our region. But again, fortunately, we're here in California, strong leadership at the state level and strong leadership at the local level as well. And so I think as we continue to see things happening at the federal level, I'm confident, I'm optimistic that what we're doing here in California, what we're doing in the San Diego region, will help counter some of what we're seeing at the federal level. I think the impact of that is to be seen. I think some of those things, we're starting to see certain things kind of trickle out or kind of scale down. So we may not know the impact of that until a little bit later. But a variety of things at the federal level, including kind of rollback of some policies, cutting of grants. Those are definitely impacting us here in San Diego.
And so do you think it's more of the grant rollbacks, things that were projects supported in the infrastructure or the Inflation Reduction Act, subsidies for EVs? What is having the most effect?
I mean, I think it's everything. And I think, again, I think there's there's targeted approaches that the grants and those types of things that were pulled back. However, there are kind of these bigger issues, tax credits, et cetera, as it relates to clean energy. But what I think is, one thing worth noting, and I always say it's really unfortunate that energy is political at this point, but I guess it is, and so we have to deal with that. However, I think it's worth noting, even along the lines or kind of sideline to some of this rhetoric coming out of DC, renewable energy is faster to be deployed. It's less expensive than traditional fossil fuels, not just here in California, but everywhere. And so even though some of these things are happening at the federal level, the market will play out. And I think market demand for energy, quick energy that we need today, renewables often kind of meet that demand. I think a lot of that stuff's going to hopefully counter some of, again, the rhetoric and some of the kind of attacks, if you will, on this industry that are happening out of the federal government.
Yeah, and our reporting's kind of shown that as well. A lot of the people that we've talked to, Solved Energy had their big IPO this year, and a lot of these companies that were telling us is that because of data center usage, because of all this sudden need for a lot more electricity, and because of the speed of deployment in getting large-scale solar projects and storage projects up compared to a gas power or a nuclear-powered plant, that's really driving the industry right now.
Yeah, and I think, again, that's happening outside of California. It's obviously happening here in California. I think, California, it takes a little bit longer to do things here, and things can be a lot more complicated than they often need to be. But as we continue to electrify everything, whether that's data centers or just kind of our energy usage in general, we need power. We have huge power demands in this country and in this state. A lot of those are driven by data centers and AI, but a lot of that's just driven by the population and our kind of need and our want to electrify. And so again, my hope is kind of the winds are behind the industry. The winds are behind kind of deployment of renewable energy. And I think we're seeing those winds kind of continue to push this industry in the right direction.
What about like community perception? A lot of neighborhoods get really nervous when they see a storage unit, a storage power plant coming into their neighborhoods. Fire risks and those kinds of things are what like neighbors bring up. Is that changing at all?
It is changing, and I think people are more aware now, and I think people are paying attention now to not just energy, but probably everything. Probably it happens more so here because we pay a decent amount for our energy usage, and so people pay attention to that probably a little bit more closely than they do elsewhere. But I think we are seeing more and more kind of community input on renewable energy kind of in general, whether it be solar projects or battery storage projects. And I think, that's something that the affordable housing community and the housing community and developers have kind of faced a lot. And I think we're seeing it more and more in the renewable energy space. We actually did some work last year kind of just on the topic and trying to really understand the public's broader perception of just where we are from an energy perspective. Our focus was really on battery storage projects, but wanted to understand kind of where people were in general. Around kind of where we are in our kind of climate goals and our renewable energy goals. And overwhelmingly, San Diegans continue to support kind of where we are and where we're going. They think about it from a climate perspective. They think about it from a reliability perspective. And so there is very, and I'm very confident to say there is broad support for kind of renewable energy in general, whether it be solar or battery storage. However, the location of those projects can change that a little bit. And so, we wanted to kind of make sure that as we are supporting the growth of the sector and supporting projects that support our electrification in our region, that we understood kind of where the public was on that. And we feel really confident that there are those folks that will always oppose kind of anything and anything new and anything different, whether it's in their backyard or whether it's not. But I feel like there's still a solid support in our region for kind of where we're going from an energy perspective. But we have a lot of work to do around that. The industry has a lot of work to do. We have to educate the community on kind of the benefit of these projects. That the fact that they're built safer and with much more technology advancements than they have been in the past. And so things are just done a little bit differently than kind of what we've experienced here and kind of what we've seen here. And so that those conversations are continuing, and it's our responsibility, it's the industry's responsibility to continue to educate the broader community, elected officials, et cetera, on why we need these projects, why they're placed in certain areas, the benefits of them, and just actually how safe they are.
Yeah, and you mentioned technology advancements. One of our favorite things to cover at the Business Journal is kind of the Cleantech advancements in technology. Companies like Unigrid that are making batteries out of sodium, and how that has safer profiles than lithium, and the expansion of those kinds of projects. Looking at almost 20 years now of leading this organization, the advancements you've seen over 20 years. What do you think will be some of the next big things to keep our eyes out on what we might see ahead as far as the technology?
Yeah, I think you hit it. I think where we're seeing a lot of the accelerator program that I talked about, we've got about 35 companies in that program that we're working with right now. I would say more than a majority of those companies are working in the battery storage space. So I think a lot of advancements are happening and have happened in recent years as it relates to kind of the storage of electricity, and whether that be for your car, whether it be for your home, whether it be for your business. And whether it be kind of what's inside the battery or how the battery is used after its kind of second life, and technologies to kind of maximize the output of those batteries. So we're seeing a lot of advancements in that space. And back in the day, we always talked about kind of the holy grail of the renewable energy industry was storage. We were generating all this renewable energy, but if we could store it and use it at a later time, that would really change the way that this industry looked. And we're seeing that in real time now. And I think as we continue to see the advancements of the industry, we're going to continue to see a lot of advancements around storage. And fortunately, a lot of that work's being done here. A lot of the startups that we're working with that are based in San Diego are scaling, they're growing, they're doing pilot facilities, and I think that's just complementary to what's happening in this region, but also just really supportive of where the industry needs to go.
What about things like fast charging? I know a lot of people, their hesitation with EVs is, it takes an hour to charge it, and I want to stop on a trip.
It's interesting you bring that up. We don't even talk about that anymore. It's almost kind of just the norm. So EVs charge much faster. The infrastructure is out there to support kind of wide range or long range use of EVs. We need more, obviously, and we need more public infrastructure to support electric vehicles. But I feel like the term was range anxiety is what people always kind of talked about when the EVs kind of were getting into the market. But I feel like we're there. That I think that people are buying electric vehicles now, kind of knowing that the infrastructure is out there to support their use. And that they can, they're no longer kind of neighborhood vehicles, but they can drive to the desert, they can drive to LA, they can drive, to San Francisco, and know that there's infrastructure along the way that's going to keep them, keep their car charged to help them get to kind of that full distance.
I have a friend that drove clear across the country with their Tesla and didn't have one bit of problem.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a norm now.
Yeah.
And kind of going back to federal things, that are happening, and pullbacks of incentives and rebates for electric vehicles. The state of California, again, is kind of stepping up. And again, I think, as gas prices continue to rise, it makes more and more economical sense for people to get into electric vehicles, regardless about how they feel about the emissions or the lack of emissions associated with those cars. And so there's that adoption, I think, is much higher than it has been.
And if it follows solar, I don't know if you saw the news about SDG&E, 1 in 4 property owners have solar in San Diego now.
Yeah, we actually we've been kind of tracking over the years kind of the penetration of rooftop solar in our region, and we actually kind of go back and forth between LA on a number of different years, and so that's obviously they're much bigger than we are, right? And there's more residential households there, but yeah, we were seeing a continued large amount of solar penetration on the residential level. At the same time, seeing a significant amount of uptake in battery storage for residential homes as well, for the exact same reason, store that power that's being generated during the day, use it at night when energy is more expensive.
Well, it's pointing to a good future for Cleantech.
I think so. I'm excited about it. I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think we have kind of, these last couple of years have been a little shaky with kind of a lot of kind of uncertainties coming out of whatever's happening at the federal level. But I feel confident in what's happening here in San Diego and what's happening here in California. And I think we continue to be, what is the 5th largest economy in the world. I think that we changed the number recently, but it's. I think we've proven the model. We've proven the value of the industry. We've proven the technology, and I think there's no looking back from here.
Jason, thank you very much for joining us
Absolutely.
today.
Thank you,
Jason. It was great having you here, and I wanted to thank you as well for helping us to compile the list of clean tech companies in San Diego.
We're glad you're doing that, and I will say too, thank you for the reporting you guys are doing on kind of this industry. It's I think it's time. And I think there's a lot of exciting things happening here in San Diego. There's a lot of exciting startups and small companies that are doing really incredible things, and I really appreciate the attention you're giving to them and making others aware of kind of what's happening here around the region.
Thank you for joining us on our Community of Business podcast. You can see us at sdbj.com.
This has been a podcast from the San Diego Business Journal, the Community of Business. Keep watch on the journal's website, sdbj.com, for this and other podcasts, past and future. Copyright San Diego Business Journal, all rights reserved.